Section 12010, warrant of arrest, Lord Library. I promised you the rest. Call your friends on they sidekicks and blackberries. Tell them Papoose dropping that Law Library. Take these bars and put them in your commissary. But you can't shop with that, you need Fetty. Acquire this knowledge by any means necessary. Welcome to part 2, Law Library. A local criminal court has a process. It's procedures they gotta go through to make arrests. If you don't understand, I'll explain it. The sole function of this process is to bring you in for arraignment. Cops looking for you with guns, kinda dangerous. A bounty on your head, illustrated. A piece of paper subscribed by issuing judge that contains the name of the court, the date it was issued in the name, or title of an offense, the defendant's full name, nickname, or government. Yeah, man, they even write your nickname. Underneath is the police officer, it reads his name. It's a court-issued document with these things on it. This piece of paper has a name, it's called the warrant. Had a previous court date and you ignored it. Try not to make police contact, you got a warrant. Left a phone number at your crib, told you to call it. Riding around with your picture, you got a warrant. You got two choices. On one hand, do the gingerbread man. Catch me if you can, living off the land, life on the lam. You just a nephew to Uncle Tom and Uncle Sam. On the other hand, if you street educated with a good lawyer, you can have the warrant vacated. If you got the bail money and you thuggicated, fight the case from the outside, regulated. Cause when a criminal action has been commenced, to issue a warrant, they gotta get the court convinced. So they file what's called an accusatory instrument. They go through drastic measures to seek imprisonment. But if the instrument is not sufficient on its face, they paperwork ain't right, they looking out of place. They ain't produce enough evidence, check this. That accusatory instrument get dismissed. No warrant is granted, now the cops pissed. Back out on the streets, looking for a snitch. This goes out to all of my niggas who on parole. You think it's a game cause you cool with your PO. He under supervision of his bosses, so if you ever slip, he gotta execute the warrant. He might care for you, but he authorized by his director within his geographical area. If you living on the run when the cops get you, they gotta inform you that a warrant has been issued. As long as you know your rights and you ask for it, upon your request they gotta show you the warrant. So when they run up on you when you in the projects, digging in your clothes, pulling out your objects, wanna bring you in for questioning, man, that's nonsense.
Yeah, Jay, I know you're familiar with the stigma around the N-word. You know, a lot of brothers frown. They frown upon other brothers who use that word. There's a lot of elders, you know, they don't like us using that word nigga. There's lectures out there that where brothers actually try to break down the etymology of the word. It's just a stigma around that. What is your opinion basically on the use of the word nigga? Has it been overemphasized? Has it been exaggerated? Or do the people who say that we shouldn't use that word, I mean, do they have a legitimate case? I mean, what is your opinion on the N-word?
Well, really and truly, every argument that everybody has on the N-word has some legitimacy to it, you know. But there's like one aspect of it that they're missing. But, you know, before I get into that aspect, let's just like really talk about all the different arguments or the main arguments that they have towards the N-word. You got people saying, oh, you know, when we use it, it's N-I-G-G-A, not N-I-G-G-E-R. You know what I'm saying? So the E-R, like, it takes the sting out of it. But then you got, I want to say, the elitist mindset who says not to use the N-word. They say, well, when y'all shooting at each other, when y'all killing each other, y'all use it in an aggressive manner, right? But the non-elitists, you know, everybody, you know, the street people, you know, I'm just using that so people can understand the difference in people I'm talking about. They say, well, you know, we use it as a term of endearment. So, you know, after a while, looking at it, and I'm like, you know, I understand both sides of the argument. I know where both sides are coming from, you know, and I had to say, what element out of that is missing? Why is it that we can't come to the middle ground? So, I guess I was looking at a lecture, and I thank, you know, Dr. Edwin Nichols for helping me understand an aspect completely different that had nothing to do with the N-word, but it helped me put into perspective the confusion on what's going on with this use of the N-word. All right? Now, what is missing is the relationship. You see, as non-white people, we are supposed to be spiritual people.
Okay.
The spiritual people by nature. Europeans, not spiritual. And they're the type of people that actually have to validate anything if they could count it, if they could label it, if they, it got to be something that's almost tangible.
Yes.
So pretty much, if it's like, we don't really go by time. Our ancestors didn't really go by time. They watched the sun, and it was a feeling, it was a vibration, for the day. It was a cycle. Europeans need to put numbers to the time of day. They have to have seconds. They have to have, minutes, hours. They have to be able to add it up. When you look at the relationship that they have, you could go into a military and a person could outrank you and you have to give them respect based on their title. That's the European concept of the title. I'm gonna get into, how all of this ties in.
That's why I take your time.
Yeah, but as far as we go, non-whites, for us, it's a spiritual thing. We supposed to value the relationship that we have with one another. That's where we are, whether we are conscientious about it or not. Because we could go to the job and we have a supervisor, if he carries on disrespectful, as black people, we don't give a shit. We don't give a shit if you're a supervisor or not. You ain't gonna disrespect us. Why? Because we emphasis on the relationship. We don't care about title. So now when we get into the N-word is a title that we got so stuck on that the European has used, and we're taking on their ideology, their mindset on the title, on the usage of the N-word. So there's this confusion now when we say we use it as a term of endearment. And what's missing is that the aspect of the relationship that we're having with one another while using the N-word. See, we focus so much on the uses of the N-word that we're not actually focusing on the relationship that we're having with the use of the N-word. And that's the part that a lot of people are failing to put together. You know what I mean? They're failing to put that together. So if we look at it, if we build up on having a positive, compassionate, and sincere relationship with one another, the relationship will override what term we use with one another. You know what I mean? So, for example, if we all had a positive, sincere, and compassionate relationship with each other, we might not even use the N-word. That might go right out the window. The N-word would be done with altogether. Or we might actually embrace it and not even argue about the way the Europeans used it against us. Because we know the relationship that we have with one another. So we have to get out of this European thinking of titles and things that we could measure. You know what I mean? Because that's just a title that they use to downplay us. Because you ever heard that term, nigga was the best stress reliever that the European ever came up with? They had to come up with a title so that way they could always call us something to make them feel better. Because this is how they operate. That's how they operate. You know what I mean? For us, yeah, our ancestors, they had titles and stuff like that, but the way they got the title by first establishing a relationship with the people in the community.
Yes.
Then the title came after, not before. Not before. So what we need to do is we need to get back into valuing the relationship that we have with one another, and that will dispel the power of the N-word that we have this confusion about whether it's good, whether it's destructive, whether it does something to us psychologically when we hear it, or whether it's a term of endearment. But that's the missing ingredient, is the relationship that we have with one another when we're using that word. And that's something that our elders, they need to figure that out. Our young people, they need to figure that out. That's the missing link. We got so caught up with just the term. I mean, one example is like Edwin Nichols gave is, you go to work and European don't feel like they have to say good morning to you. You go into work, they don't feel like they have to say good morning to you. The first thing they come with is their little paper and say, this needs to get done today. Why? Because they have this authoritative complex, because their title feels like they don't have to give you respect. And we don't operate like that. We don't operate with titles. So we need to just get out of that European mindset, because it's affecting us to the point we are embracing a European mindset, but yet trying to figure out how come we're having a hard time with the N-word, because we're not a title-based people. You know what I mean? This is the missing link. Get back to the relationship. Get back to the relationship that we have with one another, and stop focusing on the use of the N-word, because that's what's more important. So, you got these elitist Negroes who want to talk about not using the N-word for whether it's a term of endearment or whether it's being used as an aggressive statement. But as soon as you start talking about trying to have a relationship with your brothers and sisters, they don't want to, you don't want to do that. So you would rather argue over this term and this title rather than working on the relationship. Because it's more harder to do that than it is to be arguing about some bullshit word.
That was deep, Jay. That was deep. And I think more so of an emotional response that it induces. I think it's more of an emotional response, why a lot of the elders, a lot of the elitists, I think it's the emotional response. When I say emotional response, I'm talking about the fact that they associate that word with the lynchings, they associate that word with slavery, they associate that word with the genocide that was committed against black people.
Of course,
in America.
Of course. And I understand that, and I have that compassion for them. But they need to start a healing process. And part of that healing process is you have to start having a relationship with the people around you that's now, rather than having that relationship with the past. I'm not saying forget about the past. No way, shape, or form I'm saying forget about that. But I'm saying start a healing process by connecting with your people in the way that we operate. Start building on the relationship with your brothers and sisters. Don't build on the relationship on the negative that has happened. I'm not saying forget about it. I'm just saying let's start working on the relationship for it to be positive and constructive. Another example I want to give, just in case a lot of people don't understand where I'm coming from, right? Now, a European could say, he could fire somebody, a non-white person, right? That white person say, you know what? I don't like this. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna beat you up. He probably just venting, right? Europeans gonna be worried. They're gonna take what he say, every word out of his mouth, to heart. The first thing they want to do is they're gonna want to call the police. They're going to call security. But now we as black people, if somebody say, "Yeah, I'm gonna come back," man, you could tell by the vibration coming out of his speech or her speech. You could feel the energy coming out of every word that a person used, because, like I said, we operate on vibe. We operate on a relationship. So, like I said, I can sit here and say, "Yo, to hell with you, brother Mac. Get the fuck out of here." Pardon my French. And you be looking like, "Yo, Jay, you stupid." Right, because you going off of the vibe. You're going off the vibration. You're not hanging on to every word. That's a European thing. If I told that to a white person, he's going to hang on to that word and think that I'm serious. He cannot be able to read my spirit and read my vibration. You know what I'm saying? So when we use this N-word, you have to go with the vibration and the feeling that's being used by the person.
Excellent point, brother.
That's what we got to get back to. We are spiritual beings. Let's get away from all of that. Let's get back to our spirituality. Value our relationship. Let's start being able to listen to one another outside of just words and terminologies, but by vibration, by pitch of the voice, expressions on the face. And you can only get that by having compassion and being sincere with your brothers and sisters.
Because we use that term all the time. Yo, you feel me? We feeling beings. We feel each other.
Right.
We can feel when our brothers and sisters is talking about something, or they being sincere about something, or they just bull crapping about something.
Right.
So we have that intuitive abilities. Let me ask you this. The brothers and sisters out here who's on in the N-word campaign, they want to put an end to the N-word. Would you say that they are in tune with the black community? Would you say that they are in tune with the hood, with the community?
They're in tune with one aspect of it, but not in its entirety. You know, like I said, I could understand where the ban of the N-word is coming from. Like I said, because I'm in tune with my elders who has experience. I understand. I have the sincerity and compassion to understand where they're coming from, but I understand the youth who are using it as a term of endearment. So much to the point where I feel like the middle ground is valuing the relationship. So when you take on this thing, you marching and you're protesting and you campaign, that's a whole European concept again. If you were so much into wanting to disband this word, ban this word that we're using because it has this negative thing, you will go out and try to have a relationship with everybody that's using it and work on the relationship and figure out where it's going. But like I said, it's easier to march and throw a campaign because after the campaign is done, you put your 8 hours in, you go home. But to actually work on the relationship requires work.
Absolutely.
That's the part that a lot of people are not paying attention to. They don't, they don't want to do that.
Because that's like kind of common sense in a way. Like, for example, you look at animal trainers. I'm not advocating anybody, keep an animal in captivity for your benefit, and training them and putting them in circuses and all that stuff. Just using this as an example. Before they were able to train that animal, they had to establish a relationship with them. You see what I'm saying? Before you can get somebody to do what you want them to do, that's like on any level. You know what I'm saying? Before you can get somebody to do your bidding, and it's not necessarily your bidding, before you can get them to behave in a manner that's even productive for them, you have to have a relationship with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And you make a great point, because my neighbor, he's a dog trainer. So we was having a discussion about another dog trainer that we see going around in the area. So I asked him, do you know this brother? He was, make a long story short, he was saying like his methods is not so good, and he has a lot of problem with a lot of people. You see, he values making a quick dollar in the money. Now, his method of dog training is by using shock treatment. You know what I'm saying? This is a European aspect. You care about the money, you're using shock treatment. Now, my neighbor, tunes, and eventually I'll hope to be able to sit down and talk with him on his dog training experience. He has a relationship with the animals. His perspective with the animals is a lot different than this other brother that we're talking about. He knows to have a relationship. He spends time with the animal to have an understanding with the dogs in order for him to be able to train them. And like I said, it's the relationship that we got to get back to. The people putting out the campaigns about the use of this N-word, that's the shock treatment that they're trying to do to the black community with that N-word and trying to get us to not use it no more. Get out of that. Get back to the relationship. Have a relationship. Matter of fact, that's what we all yearning for. That's what we all yearning for. That's the reason why sometimes we have a hard time working with one another, because we're vibratory beings. We value the relationship, whether conscious or not about it. And when we're dealing with another one of our own who more value title than the relationship, we clash. Because you don't care about your title, you don't care about how much money you make, you're gonna respect me. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? If I come and I say good morning to you and you don't say nothing to me, we have a fit. You know what I mean? We have a fit. Because that's not how we operate. You know, but if I walk and I didn't say nothing to a European mindset, they don't care. They don't care about that. Because they're not operating on that vibration of connecting and oneness.
Also, too, Jay, in regards to the use of the N-word by our young people, I want you to just give us a brief analysis on the generation gap between the youth and the elders. Would you say that contributes to the use of the N-word?
Of course, of course. And I'm still, as of right now, in my mind frame where I'm thinking with that, I'm still gonna bring that back to the relationship. You know what I'm saying? Our elders in this day and time are afraid of our youth. They have not established a relationship with one another. You see, our ancestors, they established a relationship. It didn't matter about age, the whole concept of age. The elders was able to parent the youth. They didn't matter whether y'all was blood, if you was in the community, and it wasn't even that far ago. You know, even in the 60s, at least from what the elders tell me, when they did something in the community, somebody was gonna tell their mom, because that was the relationship vibration that happened in the community. So that's the gap that we have now. It's not so much of an age gap, but it's so much of the relationship aspect of that is the reason why that it's going this way.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like if some of the elders actually sat down with some of the young people and shared stories. You know I'm saying, like grandpa, sat down with some of the young brothers and sisters and told stories about things that happened and took place in the South. I think a lot of the youth would have a better understanding and overstanding of that word. It may be reluctant or even refrain from using the word altogether.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, in today's society. We're not having our youth spend time with the elders. That's very important. And that's supposed to be done something from birth. They're supposed to be spending time with the elders. Like one person had put it, elders and the babies, they have a connection. They vibe because there's a vibration. One is on their way out and one is on their way in. So there's a vibration that they share. So you're supposed to be establishing that connection with them from the beginning.
That's an excellent point, brother. Which is why I say they're attacking Bill Cosby. Because if you remember on the Cosby Show, one of the many positive aspects of the Cosby Show, both Claire and Bill, his name was Heathcliff. Yeah. Claire and Cliff. Both of them had both parents, and you've seen the interaction between the grandparents and Rudy, and
right.
It was a beautiful demonstration of what the black family looked like at one time.
Right.
And one of the main reasons they come in at Bill Cosby is because they want to take that out of your head. But if you look at that, there was definitely grandpa talking to the granddaughter, the grandchildren. It was definitely a connectedness.
Right.
There was no gap.
Right.
And that probably is one of the only TV shows out here that's like that.
Right.
I'm talking about both of them had both parents. And you look at both of them. They looked good too.
Right.
Both Claire and Cliff parents.
Right.
They wasn't hunched over with a cane. They wasn't on high blood pressure medication.
The children were happy to see them.
Children were happy to see them. They go over there and ask the children. What's one of them episodes? Grandpa was asking Theo, what's that hip hop stuff all about? Grandfather.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Establishing a relationship.
There you go.
He probably didn't even care about hip hop himself. He just wanted to connect with his grandson.
There you go.
And that's what we're missing.
There you go.
Got to get back to that relationship, valuing the relationship that we have with one another.
Yes.
That's what's more important.
Yes. Yes.
Because once we do that, then we develop our own language. We develop our own words in our own terms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we got to get back to. Because, you know, there's this show that I looked at for a season, and I'm not going to promote it, but it had this, a gypsy family out in Queens, you know, reality show. And he said something, one of the children said something about their culture. They promote, well, they have arranged marriages, right? And they promote for, you know, families to be started at an early age. And one of the main reasons why is so that way the children will be around to experience their grandparents, their great-grandparents, and their great-great-grandparents.
Wow.
So that's a community that you don't hear, you're not just going to hear stories about who your great-grandparents were. You're going to be able to witness them. So they know something that we used to know. We got amnesia, and that's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to knowing our family line, you know, and not just our bloodline. You know what I'm saying? If your grandparents ain't around, you should be able to connect with your best friend's grandparents. You know what I mean? You should be able to do that. Because how many, like on the Cosby Show, how many of their friends came over and interacted with the family, all as a family? They got chastised, they got lectured by, you know, they got questioned on what they were doing. The friends I'm talking about on the Cosby Show, you know.
About Bud, and you talking about, I forgot, what's Theo's friend, Cockroach.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
They was like family.
Right. You know, they didn't get no special treatment. They didn't, you know, no mouth was closed. But we at a time where there's the gap between is the relationship between the elders and the youth. Yes. And we need to get back to that. But we all do. You know, we all do. And that's that. I hope people could get that and understand where I'm coming from. You know, I like I said, I have my compassion for the elders. I understand where the youth are at. But the main importance is the relationship. Value that more than the word, and you'll see a new word and a new vocabulary come into play.
All right. Brother, that was definitely enlightening, brother. Definitely appreciate your time and your energy.
Thank you. I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that.